a new project started at the beginning of this year. And the case study is actually the metropolitan area of Rome. So we took into account this particular space, and we tried to understand how the food insecurity, the food poverty is distributed on the territory. This is our team. This is, we are a lot, and we are led by Davide Marino, and actually this work was commissioned by an institution, so by the metropolitan area of Rome. So actually the city of Rome, all the little municipalities around the city. So it was an institutional actor to ask us to start this project, even if it was our idea. So we negotiated with them and we started this project. Okay, next slide. Yeah, okay, so I will start telling you the context of this project. So in the last years in Rome, there is like a bottom-up movement that talk about food systems and food policies. So following the Milan Urban Pact in 2015, also Rome, the people living in Rome, the academic part, the institutional actors, the civil society, started thinking about a food policy. So why not starting a food policy also in Rome? So like a large group of stakeholders started dealing with this issue, and actually from 2018 the process started. And actually it's interesting because it was a bottom-up process, because all the associations, some associations on the territory and some researchers, they started together, they worked together in order to formulate a food policy. They proposed this food policy to the municipality, and now we are still in this process of defining which are the areas. We have different labs, let's say, different working groups that work on different areas of the food policy. For example, we have the agroecology and sustainable agriculture group. We have the food waste group, and we have also a group that focus on food insecurity and food poverty. So this is an issue that the city is starting to deal with. Another part of the context of this project is that the metropolitan area, so the institutional actor of the metropolitan city, they said that they wanted to have a study of the food system of Rome. So they wanted to have a document about all the features of the food systems in Rome. And actually my research team was the team that conducted the study about the food system. And while working on this topic, we actually carried out some researches about the inequalities of the city. So the inequalities regarding the access to healthy food in particular. So this was the end of last year. We identified many inequalities in the city. In this case, you can see a map that we realized. We created an index to understand the food insecurity and security level in the city, and we saw there were some here. The red zone are actually the most critical area. So this area actually are the same. In many cases, they are the same, in which the income is very low. So we identified where there was poverty, there was also a high food poverty. So we said, this is a topic, it's something we have to understand more. We have to develop some methodological tools to understand this situation. So we said, why not creating this observatory? There are also other data that foster us to start this project. For example, here there is a map. This is another research group in Rome from another university, and they applied the Human Development Index in our capital, in Rome, and they saw that there were many inequalities between between the municipalities. So of course, Rome is a big city, is a capital. So as all the big cities, there are these situations of inequalities, and many data tell us about this. Here, these are poverty in the about Italy in general, and we see that after COVID-19, the level of poverty increased a lot. So this was another element that push us to say, okay, we have to do something, because it's during these years the poverty is increasing. So we have to also to highlight this problem with to the institutions. So we want that the institutions start thinking about new policies to formulate, to implement. So we wanted to give attention to this topic. So the observatory started, but it was actually it is an experimental project. So because it has only 8 months, so we are this is the first stage of this work, and now we will present during this month on the 19th. We will present officially the project in Rome and to a big community. So actually there will be also the FAO, other institutions. So we will present this project to other agencies for the first time. So this is still an experimental phase. So the observatory started because as I said, because of the need to understand this phenomenon and the interventions to address it. And we decided that the main goals were, first of all, measuring the distribution of food poverty on the territory. So we wanted to understand which is the level of food poverty in our city. Secondly, we wanted to understand the functioning of the food aid system. So the other part of the at first was the problem itself, and secondly, we wanted to understand, yes, but what's going on to contrast this phenomena. So the food aid system is one of our object and subject of research, let's say, and then the third goal was to propose. Actually, this is the long-term goal of the observatory, is actually to propose, to work together, to advise the institutions to formulate effective policies to address the phenomenon. So some policies that are more innovative, let's say, that go beyond the mere assistance to the people that are in a situation of poverty. So our approach, first of all, we defined our approach. Our approach is, first of all, a multidimensional approach of poverty. So for us, and I think that in this, I agree with Kylie, because I remember her presentation, and she was talking about this, that poverty is actually made of several dimension, but we should not forget that actually poverty is one, but with many dimensions. We should not isolate food poverty. So we want to first of all understand this problem, but without isolating that as a single phenomena, because nutrition is connected to education, is connected to electricity. Poverty, for example, in this moment in Italy, we have a problem with electricity, with the costs of with electricity and energy, and so we took into account this multidimensional approach. Second was we considered a territorial approach, because we wanted to understand actually how this phenomenon is distributed on the territory. So which are the areas that are more critical, because we are sure there are many inequalities in the city, and in order to implement some specific policies, we want to understand which are the critical areas of the city. And then another part of our approach is that we want to have, and we aim to have, that for the moment is like this: we want to have a multidisciplinary team. Like me, I'm an anthropologist, for example. The professor Davide Marino is an economist. We have a sociologist, an expert in nutrition, for example, and we have a person from political science. So it's a huge group, and we want to, during these years, we want that this group increase and to involve people from other subjects, because for us it's very important. And then we want to use, I mean, this is connected to the issue of the team, because we want to use both quantitative and qualitative methods. So so far we use some quantitative methods with surveys, with data set analysis. We use software, we use statistics to understand our sample, but we also did some interviews. This is a part I like most, because as an anthropologist I prefer qualitative approach, but I think they are complementary, of course. We made many interviews to understand some topics. So this is the approach. Our, let's say, lines of research and methodology we use, so to go more in depth to the researches we did so far. The first line of research is focused on understanding the food inequality. So first of all, one of our methodology was to create an index of economic accessibility. So this was focused to understand the food affordability, economic stuff, so based on the income. And so we created this index that is quite like is quite new on the Italian. We can say in Italy we don't have a specific indicator for food poverty, so we needed to create something that was useful for us and something that was possible to use on a territorial level. So we created this index, and here for the map I showed before was made through this to this creation. And actually we are since it's experimental, we are making several calculations to understand which is the best to apply for the next years. Then we applied also the in Italian we call it FIES, so I guess in English is FIES. So it's the food insecurity experience survey, and it is actually based on the perception of the poverty from the people. So we choose a sample of 160 people. They are not a lot, but we tried to cover more or less all the metropolitan area, and we gave them this 2 questionnaire to fill. And actually we had the answers about how they, if in the last months they had a perception of hunger or let's say moderate food insecurity. So to understand their perception, this is a tool developed by FAO, and we wanted to understand if this tool was working for us. Then we also formulated another questionnaire. This was made by us, and this was about the dietary behavior. So with the same sample of the FIS, we gave them another questionnaire about their behavior. So what they eat normally, if they eat healthy food, or another, I mean, yeah, how they behave in terms of also food waste. So it's actually a long questionnaire of many questions. So we are still elaborating this data. And then we also did an analysis of the household expenditures. So with the same sample, we asked them to, we collected all their expenditures over 3 months. So we followed actually 160 people for 6 months to understand the expenditure, and here it's still the consumption, let's say, the food consumption. And we're still elaborating this data. And what another analysis was the food desert analysis. So we did a geospatialization of all the food points, let's say, in all the food points in Rome, to understand if there are some areas that are where there are food deserts. The second line of research is about the food system, as I said before. So we used some methodologies to understand more how, because there were no studies about this. So there is like, there are many associations and many organizations that work on food poverty in Rome, but there was not a study or an awareness of how many were there, and neither the institution. Sometimes the institutions sometimes can understand how much it is big and how they are connected between themselves. So first of all, we conceptualize the solidarity chain. We call it this system like this, so the solidarity chain, and we tried to build like a big graph with following the food. So where the food of the food aid come from, and where it arrives, and how, which path it follows. So this was our first work. We made some interviews to some, let's say, people that work in the sector for years to understand which are the main actors, etc. Then we carried out a social network analysis. This is a specific, let's say, methodology. We used a specific questionnaire to the organization to understand their relationships between themselves. So if there were some, to understand if this organization that at the beginning seemed that work alone, if they work together, how much they work together, if they exchange some food, if they share information, if they have the same beneficiaries during the activity. So we tried to build this social network analysis, and actually we found out that, of course, the food banks are actually at the center of this network, because all the organizations are in contact with the food banks. And this is a data, and is an important data. Then we carried out a geospatialization of the food aid activities to understand if there are some areas in which there were no food aid. So we tried to make an intersection between the poverty level and the food aid activities to see if they were connected in some ways. Then we carried out some qualitative interviews to understand the different approaches in food aid, and I think this is very interesting for this network, because actually we wanted, this is very anthropological, so I'm actually more on this topic, because I wanted to understand which are the ideas, which are the approach in the interventions of the different associations. So like, in a nutshell, what we found is that there are some organizations based on more religious charity and top-down approach, and some organizations that are more based on the auto-organization, empowerment, social inclusion, and these organizations were taking into account poverty, not as only as food poverty, so just giving the food to the people to answer to just the need of the food, but they were considering the problem of these people as a multidimensional poverty, so to resolve the cause, let's say, not the consequences. So this for us is very important, because we want to bring also the attention of the institutions. And we also created a participative working group with the Food Aid Association. So we had 2 meetings with the major organizations, food aid organization in Rome. So there were the food banks, there were the Red Cross, but also some small organization with a different approach. I mean, we just did 2 meetings, but during these 2 meetings, it was clear the difference between them. There were some discussions, and we also tried to understand which are the problems of these systems. For example, that there is no healthy food because there is a problem of logistics, for example. So we tried to understand which are the problems of the system. And of course, during these activities, we always want to cooperate with institutions, in the sense that we are having some interviews also with them to understand which is their role in the food aid, so where the money come from, how the municipality help the association in the solidarity chain. But also to understand if there are some municipalities in the metropolitan areas that have more good practice. For example, there is one municipality that they have this, let's say, solidarity shop, and because they want to foster the dignity and the empowerment of the person, they have a vision. So we want to understand there are some municipalities that have a different vision from the others. These are some of the examples. So for example, this is just to show you how was the work participatory working group, because as I told you, it's an important part of our work, because we want that if we formulate new policies, we want to formulate this in a participatory way. So we want that all the stakeholders can have a voice and can contribute to this work. It's not like just us as research. We want to collaborate. We don't want that just to be academic, the academic part that that speak without be listened by people. So we want that this is a group work. So more or less, this is our work. I'm open to questions, and I know it's a lot of information, but during these months we worked a lot, because since they were the starting months, we wanted to show that we were an active group, that we are into the discussion, that we are active. So we made a lot of work, and we are still elaborating the data. So we are still finding the results of this data. So thank you so much. I don't know if I respected the 20 minutes, but I stop myself here, and I'm open to the questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Francesca. And you were perfect on time, actually. So thank you for that. You regulated yourself. So yeah, thanks so much. And yeah, just amazing to hear of all the work that you've been doing. There's clearly like a lot of work gone into this. So yeah, it was great, and you laid it out really well for us. So thank you. Yeah, just to remember, do we normally stop recording now, or do you record the conversation as well?
Sorry, what? Sorry.
Sorry, I was just asking, like, Josh or Alison, do I normally press stop on the record button now and not record the discussion?
We can record the discussion. Yeah, there is no. Yeah, for me, we can record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we typically do, and then we just stop it before the other business.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, Jan, you've got a question.
I do. In Rome, are there public sector food assistance programs? In the US, we have cash assistance, very, very minimal. We have food specific assistance that's more at a somewhat less miserly level.
Yes, actually, I mean, we have the most of the part of the fundings come from the public institutions. So we have the European Fund for now I don't remember the name in English, but we have the fund that is specific for people in situation of poverty, and most of the funds come from Europe, let's say. And then we have there's some national grants for this operation. Then we have also the municipality fundings for this operation. So let's say that the money comes from the public institution, but during the implementation, the food aid organization, the food aid association, they do all the work. So only during COVID-19, where there was an increase of the people in situation of poverty, the municipality of Rome started go with the public car of the municipality to distribute the food to the people. So just in situation of emergencies, the municipalities start to do the activities. But in a normal situation, the standard, let's say, is that the third sector, the association, get the money from the public, from the institution, from the public, but they do all the jobs. So in this sense, there is the responsabilization of the politics, let's say, because the association decide which kind of activities to carry out. So they decide if open a shop or distributing the food in a traditional way. So it's up to them, let's say, even if the money comes from the public.
Thank you.
So how is, I mean, in US it's more private, let's say. How I would like to know more about US, if there are differences between the different states in US.
Well, I'll start, but other people can jump in. In the United States, there are 15 federal programs that are specifically involved with meeting food needs. The big ones are something we call SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, used to be called food stamps. And that's a program that gives low-income households food-specific purchasing power. It comes now, it used to be coupons that you used at the grocery store. Now it's a debit card kind of thing. And the standards for eligibility are based on income. So a lot of people who are in need can't really access SNAP because they can't show the inadequacy of their income for a variety of reasons. And the threshold leaves out a lot of people who are in need. But it is a very big program. About 40 million Americans participate in the SNAP program. And the other big ones are the school food programs, which in the United States are funded federally for low-income families. Upper-income families can purchase the meals, and all the meals are subsidized, so made cheaper by federal contributions, and in some cases, state supplements among the various states. So there's school breakfast and school lunch, and then there are some programs that provide meals to youngsters in after school, out of school time programs, we call them, after school and summer meals. And there's also a program for women and infants and children in the preschool years. We call it the WIC program, Women, Infants, and Children. And that is a kind of prescription food program. It allows families to purchase, but only foods that are specifically targeted to meeting health deficiencies. And then there's a whole raft of other programs. One of considerable concern is called the Food Distribution Program on Indian reservations, that because on many Indian Native American reservations, there are so few grocery stores that giving people food stamps, SNAP, didn't really solve the problem if they didn't have transportation to grocery stores. So it's very different here in that our cash assistance, our welfare program for people, households in need, is completely inadequate. The eligibility thresholds are so low that you have to be absolutely destitute to qualify. And then the amount that they give you is so low that it doesn't anywhere near bring you up to the poverty threshold. So many very poor families in the United States receive much more assistance as SNAP, food-specific purchasing power, than they do as cash income. And generally speaking, the cash grants do not cover the cost of rent. So we are using public policy to push people into homelessness, in a sense. Anybody want to add to that?
I was just putting in the chat that in addition to, as you were saying, the cash assistance for families or the temporary assistance for needy families program here in the US, not only, just as Jan said, is it have extremely low, or rather high bar for eligibility threshold that you have to be destitute, and the cash assistance itself is inadequate. There's also a lifetime limit of just 5 years of assistance, and also a work requirement for it, that you have to be looking for or engaged in work. And it's not recognizing, that the the reality.
Right, and it has to be official work. It can't, many low-income people do all kinds of work in their neighborhoods, but if you're not getting paid, you can't demonstrate it. It doesn't count toward eligibility for these programs. So just one final note, because the public food programs are such a major part of what little we do to address poverty in this country, it's been a concern of some of us for a long while that the food charity organizations should be helping their clients connect with the federal programs if they are eligible, and that they not take the pressure off the public sector, the government, to make adequate prediction by sort of reassuring kind-hearted people that, oh, the food bank will take care of it. So so the tension, in a sense, between food charity and public provision, I mean, those programs are rights. SNAP is a justiciable right. If you apply and you get turned down, you can take it to court. What they call a fair hearing. Anyway, it's a constant element in the world of food assistance in the United States.
Thanks, Jan. That was, yeah, great summary there. Thank you. And yeah, hope that was helpful, Francesca. Alison.
Hi, excuse me. Thank you so much, Francesca. Really interesting conversation. I feel like my association with Rome is predominantly through a lot of the UN agencies and the, the work that happens in the city of Rome on behalf of, countries around the world. And so it's fascinating to hear about the study and the work, excuse me, happening in the city of Rome itself. And to that end, I'm wondering if there is, and also, I guess, because in Rome there's so much conversation around the right to food, human rights. I'm wondering if that, right to food in terms of economic, social, and cultural rights, if that is something that is at play in the work and the study that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, I mean, we are still at the beginning of this debate, because last year I worked in France, for example, and they are advanced in this discussion. So it's something that they talk during the public debate, etc. In Rome, we are still at the beginning, and it's not something that people talk about. There are some just few organizations, some few small organizations that have, for example, 30 volunteers. So nothing in terms of numbers is really smaller comparing to the Red Cross or other the Caritas. We have the Caritas, for example. They're super small, but they believe in this. They talk about the right to food, and when we are in the working group with all the associations, sometimes they don't say right to food, for example, but when they talk, they started this discussion, even if they are small associations. So for example, was during a meeting was very interesting, because an organization talked about the right to the taste, actually. So the right of a person to eat what they like, because of course the taste is not only what you like, it reminds you your past, your families, your memories, and to have the right to eat, for example, that particular fish that your mother cooked in the past, and you don't have the money to afford this particular food. We can consider this a right, to the right to taste. So during this discussion, there are some interesting ideas that comes out, but it's not we're still at the beginning. Let's say we're still at the beginning.
Thanks, Francesca. I think that idea of right to taste, I think that's really interesting in terms of thinking about food, like those cultural and the sort of like bringing it back to family and community and everything. Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Can I ask quickly, just how is that translated in Italian? How do you say the right to taste?
In Italian was diritto al gusto.
Gusto.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the right translation in English, but I don't know. It makes sense. I don't know. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dave, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks very much. Grazie, Francesca. Very nice, very interesting talk. I'm thinking along the political lines now. So you've just had an election, and it's a a right-wing potential government, very strong on populist policies. How do you see? I don't know if anything, if your future project plans are thinking of factoring this in, but the idea that food poverty may rise for certain groups because of the populist government, but be alleviated for more national citizens because of a populist government. I'm just interested in the politics behind what's going on at the minute, and the rise of food poverty in your region. And also another thing that I'm thinking about with the work that you've been doing in Rome, there's, to my mind, I've never visited Rome, but there's a vast inequality there when you've got an institution such as the Catholic Church with vast resources of money. Thinking about, there's a nice disparity there that's playing on my mind in the background. But I'd like to hear about the political side, if you know anything.
Yeah, the political side, that's actually very interesting and complicated. But of course, now we have this new government that they are establishing. And I mean, for us it's my opinion, of course, but I'm completely against this party, and I don't think that they will contribute to alleviate poverty in any case, because they're just talking about to lower the taxes and these kind of things. So okay, but I mean, before this government, the situation was not good, let's say, because even if I mean, we have racism, let's say, racism that is diffuse, is maybe is not represented by, it's represented sometimes by some political parties, but there is some institutional racism, let's say, sometimes. And we have this, of course, also in the food aid system, for example, because in Rome the racism is, for example, to the gypsy population. For example, we have many gypsy people. I worked a lot with them, and actually during some interviews with the organizations, some also religious organization, etc., they said, yeah, but when they come, since they are the operators, the volunteer that decide to who give the food, because they, of course, they look at your income, but then they decide to give you the food. And when they say, yeah, but sometimes the gypsy come here, and I don't know, we saw them with cars, etc., so we don't consider them poor, and so we don't want to give them the food. And it's like it's racism, because poverty, maybe you can have a car, but then you don't eat well. So it's like this. And even if it's not like even if now think about if there was a left party winning the election, we would still have this kind of racism. It is more diffused, is more like inside the population. So I think with this government, it's going to be worse, because people will feel more legitimized to be racist with this government. So it will be the situation will be worse, but we have to work about this, of course. And also we want to do a work also to the food they give, for example, in the centers for the migrants, so to see which kind of food they give to migrants. If it's, I mean, we want to also to discover this cultural situation, and let's see. Thank you for the question.
Oh, all right. Oh, Jan has one.
Francesca, you mentioned that you had created an association or a group for the food aid providers, and that part of the intention was a space for reflection. Mm-hmm. And I was curious as to how are they responding? Are they welcoming? Has participation been good? How's it working out?
Yeah. That's interesting. Thank you. Okay, the first meeting we had at the first meeting, we were like 40 people, so a lot of people, because sometimes, I mean, it's hard to we were all in presence. So we were in one of the offices in Rome, and they came a lot of people from all the organizations. And we were so happy because I said, okay, people are interested in participating. And there was a discussion, but for example, at the second meeting, there were only 10 people, maybe also less than 10 people. So from this, we understood, okay, one of them came just to bring the association there. So like food bank has to be there, or Red Cross, I have to be there. So they wanted just to say, my organization is present also on this project, but they were not interested in the objectives of this project. So this was a thing that we have understood. Then what we asked to them is to fill a questionnaire regarding the internal data of the associations, because sometimes we have some data of food poverty. In Rome, some associations have some data, especially the Caritas, the religious one, the Red Cross has some data, the food banks have many data. So we said, let's collect all our data to to combine them and to have an holistic view of the situation. And there were some of them, especially the smallest one, they say, yeah, they gave us all the data. The big one, sometimes they were like jealous of the data, because they said these are, I mean, they didn't say it in an explicit way, but we've understood that they say, this data for us, these are our power, because these are the number of people that we assist, these are the food we distribute. So this is our presentation to the institutions to get the fundings, to say them how much we work. So giving this data was not so easy for them, because they were internal. And maybe to share this with the other, the problem was not to sharing this with us, but with the other organizations. So for example, Red Cross, they didn't want to share the data with, I don't know, the others. So this was one of the obstacles, even if so far they are collaborating. So let's see, and if we will do the next meeting in November, I guess. So, and we want to do some workshops, so to reflect, to think about some issues. For example, right to food. Let's talk about right to food, or sustainable diets. We want to work about this, and let's see what they say.
Okay, interesting, very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Francesca. Yeah, any other questions before we move on to Emily's update? Yeah, Rebecca.
Yeah, hi, Francesca. Really interesting presentation. I was really interested in those, what you were talking about earlier, these narratives of deservingness that are placed on people, who deserves food aid and who doesn't, and individual volunteers are making those decisions. I'm just wondering about, just demographically, like who are the cultural communities or racialized groups that are being served and in Rome, and what does that look like, and how are, and if you can talk a little bit more about how that racism plays out across those different cultural communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for the question. Okay, the composition, of course, of people that receive this food aid is very different. So we have, of course, families. We have first of all, we have homeless that they need a specific food aid, because it's a food aid that you distribute on the street, and it's already cooked, for example. So we have this group of person. Then we have family with low income. So for example, these families are not like poor in the sense that they can afford maybe some basic goods, but maybe it's hard to reach the end of the month. So we have family, for example, many of these families are from for example, they're from the north of Africa, and they sometimes they have many children. So the poverty is also because they have a large family. And we have people from sub-Saharan Africa, for example. They used to be young men coming from Africa, because I mean, Italy have a lot of migration from there. So we have these people. Then we have let's say in Rome there is this gypsy community distributed in the city, and since they are sometimes not all not all, of course, not all these people, but some of them do some crime, some little crimes. Maybe they steal the bags, you know, in the street. There is this perception, this racism to gypsy people, and there is a marginalization that is crazy. We have out of the city like a small like a small ghetto, let's say, that there are no services. It's like in the middle of nowhere. You don't have the shops, you don't have schools, you don't have anything. So how can you like foster the, I don't know, the wealth of a population if they are isolated from the city? They don't have schools, they don't have anything. So this is the approach of the city to these people, to leave them like outside, not connected to the city, like to eliminate them. So this, in here there is a lot of racism, to other kind of migrants. Sometimes there is, in some situation, in religious case, in this religious organization, they sometimes they have more, they seem more tolerant to the diversity sometimes. So they are not racist to everyone. So, but sometimes it's hard. But you know, in the religious group, in the religious organization, they try to be open to other cultures. But of course, sometimes we thought, but if I am, for example, Muslim, and I have to go to a church to take the food, is this a problem for me? So we want to understand also this, because if I'm Muslim, I have to go, because the main are Catholic, so I have to go to a Catholic church to get the food. Is this a problem for these Muslim families? I don't know. So more or less is this.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Francesca.